Finance Minister James Marape announced his resignation. Fire destroys Kairuku Hiri district office. And New Ireland's main highway sealed and upgraded.
This is National EMTV News with Helen Sayer.
Good afternoon and thank you for joining me for Thursday's news. The office of the member for Kairuku Hiri district went up in flames last night when a fire swept through the old geohazards building in Port Moresby. Located next to the old mineral resources building, the Kairuku Hiri district office caught fire, and within 30 minutes the fire destroyed polio supplies including other documents stored inside the office.
At this point, the fire service is yet to establish the cause of the fire, but those first on the scene say the fire started between 7:30 and 8 p.m. last night. The flames were huge and the fire lasted for at least 3 hours before it was completely extinguished. It started from one building, spread to the second and continued onto the third. Located closer to the police headquarters in Konidobu and in between a number of government offices, it was a challenging task for firefighters to contain the fire and prevent it from spreading. In January, 2 separate fires destroyed a warehouse at 6 Mile and a residential home in East Boroko. The fire service said investigations into those fires will be released to the public once completed. However, that has not been made public yet. This morning, when EMTV News returned to the scene of the fire, gates into both buildings were locked and employees asked to return home. An ambulance belonging to the people of Kairuku Hiri was partly damaged, while the total cost of damage in terms of money value is yet to be established. It is understood vital government documents collected over the years has been lost in the fire. Thekla Gunga, National EMTV News.
The resignation of Papua New Guinea's Finance Minister James Marape has sent shockwaves through the country's political circles. The unexpected announcement came at midday when Mr. Marape held a briefing with the media at his Vulupindi House office in Port Moresby. Michelle Stephen with the details.
James Marape, who has been finance minister since 2012, said his decision was because the Prime Minister, Peter O'Neill, and his associates had lost trust in him. Marape said this decision was not easy to make, and despite cultural and personal ties, the level of understanding between the Prime Minister and himself was at its lowest after his office and associates continued to send negative signals regarding their lack of trust in him.
No. I'm not moving to the opposition. I'm not. I'm still a part of government. I'm just resigning from this post as Minister of Finance. So simple as that. It's a personal choice, and it's like I said, making way for others to ascend and hopefully become minister, and giving opportunity for PM to reconfigure his cabinet so that he can have cabinet ministers that he fully trusts. In the last few weeks, news continue to come out from his office that and it shows that they got no trust in me. So, what's the point holding on to office when they have an element of mistrust?
In a statement released today, Marape said he disagreed with the Prime Minister on various issues, including local participation in the oil and gas sector and support for local businesses. These include policies like getting more local content participation in Papua New Guinea's oil and gas sector or mining industry, or on the empowerment of local businesses, or on resource law reconfiguration for wealth generation for the country, or for the lack of honoring existing resource project agreements like the 4.27% of Croton shares for 5 provincial governments and their landowners, and other issues.
Issues of the country needs to be addressed, but he has shown habit that he disregards many of our advices in most instances, and I feel that some of us must make way so that he can find other candidates who are compatible to his way of thinking to be in such an important post to run the affairs of our country.
Marape's resignation comes 36 hours after the signing of the US $13 billion Papua LNG project that allowed only 2% for landowners. He also revealed how he had been trying to maintain his position amidst the burgeoning rift between himself and the Prime Minister, refueled by what he called the Prime Minister's associates.
I think there are issues pertaining to the country, issues pertaining to my own Hela province and Southern Highlands, issues pertaining to the interests of the country that is better addressed by me not as a Minister of State but as a Member of Parliament. That is why I need to detach from Cabinet and remain as a Member of Parliament so that my voice can come out clearer.
Marape says he has come to realize that most of his advice find no traction and is non-compatible with the Prime Minister's worldview. Thus, it is only fitting that he exits Cabinet. Marape said he is not in Cabinet for its comfort, but to contribute to national development and having completed some reform in the Finance Department over the last 7 years, including better expenditure control mechanisms, as well as setting up a signature reform in procurement law that includes local content emphasis. He felt the time was now right for him to move out of Cabinet so that fresh minds could have an opportunity to contribute to the country's development.
I differ in some key crucial fundamental policy issues to my Prime Minister. I've had 7 years working with him, and I even if he shifts me to another portfolio, I will respectfully decline. He must find a team of leaders that are compatible to his line of thinking, and they can work. And I'm satisfied. I've given my service to him as his minister for the last 7 years, and I've worked with him. And I've diligently served him. I've been a true blue-blooded, loyal Hela man serving him.
Mr. Marape is the second most senior cabinet minister to resign from the O'Neill cabinet. Earlier, Don Polio resigned as treasurer following disagreements over the UBS loan. Michelle Stephen, National MTV News.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Peter O'Neill, who is visiting New Ireland, says he accepts the verbal resignation of James Marape as a Minister of State. Mr. O'Neill said Marape had been a minister since he was first elected as a Member of Parliament, and this national commitment had presented challenges at the district level and prevented him from focusing on his electorate and on issues close to his people. The PM says he has not heard from Mr. Marape, and as a matter of protocol, he expects Mr. Marape to be in contact with him soon regarding his intentions. The National Department of Health Human Resource Manager Joseph Lipu says the department is working on an incentive program to attract health workers to work in rural areas. Lipu said this at the third graduation of the Enga College of Nursing yesterday in Enga Province. 30 students graduated with diploma in general nursing after completing their 3-year study.
The incentive program is called the Rural and Remote Health Workers Retention Guidelines. All processes have been approved and it is in its final stages of approval with the Department of Personnel Management. There has been an influx of health workers to work in health facilities in the urban areas due to various reasons, leaving rural and remote clinics abandoned. Mr. Lipu told the graduates that health workers will receive incentives from the Treasury Department to work in the rural areas to serve the rural population.
This means if you work, you will benefit from this if you go out to the rural or remote areas to work.
Mr. Lipu, on behalf of the National Health Department Secretary and Minister, says the national government has been supporting the nursing schools' infrastructure development to improve the capacity of the schools to train more nurses to replace the aging workforce. Enga Governor Sir Peter Ipatas, who was the guest of honor, says EPG will make sure Enga becomes the medical and education hub of PNG. He also thanked the continuous support of the Australian government for funding Econ's infrastructure and for providing scholarships to the nursing students.
When students fail to meet academic standards, they cannot continue studies at this college. We cannot afford to compromise the standard and quality nurse training.
While the National Health Department may have its program to attract health workers to work in rural areas, Enga Province, through Wabek MP Dr. Lino Tom and Governor Ipatas, have gone a step ahead in setting up their office in Cairns, Australia. They have also arranged for students to study in Australia and get the best education and also find job employment there. They will also support colleges in Enga Province, all these to raise the standard of the province and changing the mentality of its people. Dr. Lino encourages the graduating students and other continuing students to serve patients with a compassionate heart.
You must be prepared to be exposed to the dangers of HIV, AIDS, TB and hepatitis B, these very highly contagious diseases. You must be prepared to work 24 to 36 hours straight. It is indeed a very challenging calling. However, if you put people before money and your work before all else, you surely are destined for greatness.
Enga College of Nursing principal says the school will not compromise with standard and quality to ensure they produce the best nurses in the country.
In a Christian environment and at a high level of academic and clinical standards for the last 3 years.
Fastenata Yama, National EMTV News, Mount Hagen.
With National EMTV News, the BOLUMINSKI highway in New Ireland has been sealed and upgraded and is now officially the longest sealed highway in the Pacific. That story from KVing, among others, still to come. Stay tuned. Welcome back. The 262-kilometer BOLUMINSKI highway is now completely sealed and upgraded. Prime Minister Peter O'Neill today cut the ribbon to open the road in Bopire village outside Namatanai town. Hundreds around New Ireland gathered to witness the occasion, including senior members of Cabinet, Australian High Commissioner Bruce Davies and host Governor Sir Julius Chan, among others. The last stretch of road sealing was completed under the PNG Australia Transport Sector funding. The BOLUMINSKI highway is now the longest sealed road in the Pacific region. Works Minister Michael Nally says the road will have huge impact on the lives of those using it and must be maintained over time. Adventure Park now has an official Facebook page named as Adventure Park Papua New Guinea. During the launch this afternoon, Lands Minister Justin Tachenko said the page is to promote the exciting happenings of the park. Officially named 9 years ago, Adventure Park wants the general public in PNG and also internationally to be fully informed and updated. In the near future, Adventure Park hopes to see bookings and payments for events at the park being made online.
Port Moresby for many years, and now we've come to a stage here at Adventure Park where we're going to be taking it to the next level in respect to promoting this park to the world and also to all our people throughout Papua New Guinea and Port Moresby. This Facebook site is all about promoting the Adventure Park, promoting the activities, the programs, the flora and fauna, what is happening at the park, so everybody is fully updated.
St. John Ambulance Commissioner Matthew Cannon was recently honoured with admission as an officer of the Order of St. John, a Queen's Sovereign Order. Cannon, a registered paramedic, started his career with St. John Ambulance over 16 years ago, of which he has spent the last 4 of those years here in Port Moresby. Cannon said working for an ambulance service is like no other job in the world, and as CEO of St. John, he never takes this responsibility lightly. Prior to taking up the top job with St. John PNG, Cannon worked for the New South Wales Minister for Health as a liaison for the ambulance service, and prior to that, a senior operations manager with St. John. The Deputy Chairman of the National St. John Council of Papua New Guinea, Ian Clow, said the council recently extended Cannon's contract for another 3 years, recognising the much-needed growth and regained community confidence in St. John in the communities under Cannon's leadership. As the weeks wind down to the much anticipated LLG elections, people have become relatively skeptical if it will bring tangible developments. A small hamlet of about 400 people living on the outskirts of Warangoi Township in the East New Britain province say LLG elections in previous years haven't brought them much. Their roads, health clinics and education for their children have remained constant daily challenges for many years. Edwin Fidelis reports from Kokopo.
This is Buffalo Station, a small community of about 400 men, women and children living on the fringes of the rural township of Warangoi. They make up a small portion of about 2,000 people living in the Laup ward of Sinivit local level government of Pomio district. Jack Saki, a long-time resident of the area, tells me he has been living here for the past 30 years. He is one of many other settlers who have bought land from traditional landowners to settle. He says their small community has been neglected for a very long time by their ward leaders.
Plan something long government service in order to install a remote area like a road. I'm taking distance loyal go antablo school 2 hours or 3 hours lo come up school way.
A few kilometers up the river is the Warangoi hydropower station, the source that supplies electricity to the entire East New Britain province. But for those who live here, don't have a reliable electricity connected to their homes for the past 20 years.
Support the government, come up with because need a good leader where we can enable looks at heavy mikat insights. So we can support helping me can come up one president or member where only can look at good needs.
But their concerns don't end there. The only road into the area has been deteriorating steadily over the years. Health services and education for their children continues to become a daily struggle, and they blame their ward leaders for not attending to their concerns.
Long way lo me pla long kira playa yo road me playa lo buffalo guantap long way lo me pla sometimes me paso early sometimes me pago late or less na biselo me pla so I'm concerned with Islam.
Local level government elections are seen as the poor cousin of the national elections, where empty promises are made to deliver the needs of ordinary people. Here you get a sense of how the talk about delivering government services at the ward level appears to be so far from reality on the ground.
What member must come through na lulu one family na sabe need blood na racing point na must work on the mipla by your right.
As the elections for the third tier of government approaches, people have begun to question their elected ward leaders on why there haven't been any development at their wards during their term in office. Edwin Fidelis, National EMTV News, Kokopo.
The members of the public in Ley came forward today saying there should be more awareness in schools and the community to educate people on ways to minimize sexual abuse cases happening in the city. According to Ley's Police Sexual Offence Squad, there has been an increase in the offences of sexual abuse on minors since 2017. They attend to almost 5 cases in a week.
These teachers are from Milford Haven Primary School in Ley. Today they gave their views about the recent increase of sexual offences on children in Ley. A senior teacher, Annie Quilla, says it's painful hearing reports of school-aged children being abused by older men.
It has broken our heart because we look at every student as our children, our own. When they do such things to, especially girls, when I'm expressing lo talk pisin, you bagarapim behind blong him.
Ini liklik ko na plong 6 pla Christmas. Emos tapaninit long look out blood papa mama.
It's sick to see abusing the children. It's sick. So they should, the penalties that they impose. The penalties that they impose it's less.
I think it's lenient.
It's too lenient, and
get goosebumps to read stories like that, and that's not good. And it's also traumatizing for children who are affected, and the public are not too happy. As parents, we're not happy, but I'm sure everyone in Ley is not too happy about that.
According to Lay's Police Sexual Offence Squad, charges of sexual penetration and abuse of trust on offenders have increased since 2017. In a week, they attend to almost 5 sexual abuse cases on minors. Most cases are not reported. The victims are especially girls under the age of 16.
10 years down, our society was very, very safe. But when you look at today's society, this thing is getting out of control.
Street violence are increasing. That brings chaos to the community, to the neighboring community that we are living now. The child abuse is increasing at these states. So the government has to do something to abolish this or to make aware so that these things should not happen.
Meanwhile, Lay Metropolitan Superintendent Anthony Wagambi Jr. said there will be an awareness in the city and put a stop to out-of-court settlement of sexual abuse cases on children.
We will be doing an awareness through the FSVC and all the partners and police. We will be doing an awareness so for people to have, when these crimes are reported, that they must be dealt with in the court of law. We will not have it settled out of court.
Julie Badui Owa, National MTV News, Lay.
You're with National MTV News. When we come back, we take a look at stories making headlines overseas. Welcome back to the news. The coastal communities of Moresby South today received 8 brand new dinghies. Lands Minister and Moresby South MP Justin Tichenko said over the next few months he will be distributing more dinghies as these are just the first of 24. Among the 8, one was given to Dago Primary School located on Fisherman Island, which has been the school's biggest need for transportation.
The coastal communities of Moresby South have received a boost to their transportation needs. Local member and Lands Minister Justin Tichenko said this donation has been made possible through his electorate's DSIP funding and knows that it will meet their greatest need of transportation.
You must understand Moresby South is a coastal electorate as well. We have settlements, we have suburbs, we have the CBD, we have urban areas, and we also have Motokoi Tabu and coastal areas as well in our Moresby South electorate. That's why it's the best electorate in the city, because we have everybody together.
Dago Primary School was one of the recipients of this presentation. Senior teacher Mr. Wakoi mentioned that the dinghy will uplift the standard of education in the island community.
Dago Island School is not capable of meeting the identified problems in terms of finance to improve the failing educational learning conditions in the school because the TFF fund the school received annually is very low compared to other schools on the mainland.
With a school population of over 290 students, the school continues to face challenges as it has been out of reach for basic facility upgrades.
Like for example, we have 8 staff, but 4 houses. Only 4 houses for 8 staff. And then we have a double classroom that is run down.
The benefit from having this dinghy goes beyond just transporting teachers and students to transporting basic school materials.
Located right in the sea, we experience a lot of dinghy problem. With this new dinghy, we are confident that it will enable our teachers and students to ease some of our problems of transporting teachers and students to mainland to take part in excursions and educational calendar events organized in NCD.
Lilian Sopera Kinea, National MTV News.
Turning overseas now, back from the brink of no-deal chaos once again, Britain has been handed a 6-month Brexit lifeline. But 3 years after voting to take power back, it's increasingly at the mercy of the union it chose to leave.
With just 2 days until a Brexit cliff edge, an 11th hour call for help. Prime Minister Theresa May forced from her own echo chamber to plead for a delay.
Are you embarrassed to be asking for another delay?
I want us to be able to leave the European Union in a smooth and orderly way as soon as possible.
After hours of talks, Europe issuing a lifeline, extending D-Day to October 31st with the ability to leave if a deal is forged before then.
The message to our British friends, please do not waste this time.
After watching the UK descend into chaos, it's a call to restore calm.
An extension in itself does not solve this problem. It gives the British side more time, more space to find a solution.
But if there is no deal before May 23rd, the UK will have to take part in upcoming EU elections, and that's infuriating hardcore leavers. In 2016, they were victorious.
We've got our country back!
Tonight, 3 years after the referendum, the Brexit bus arrived at Irony Station.
One of the reasons the UK voted to leave the European Union was to take back control, but the irony of things tonight is that Britain's future has been entirely in the EU's hands.
For British businesses, the pressure's rising. Uncertainty rarely breeds success.
We know that small business confidence and investment at the moment is absolutely on the floor.
Amid the struggle to find common ground, at least these two found common clothes. Britain now has 6 months to fashion a way out of its self-made mess.
The first image to be captured of a black hole has proved a New Zealand mathematician's work to be true. More than 50 years ago, Professor Roy solved the equations describing rotating black holes. Now he says this is the beginning of a new phase, understanding the universe.
This is the nucleus of the galaxy M87, and this is the first ever image of a black hole.
The outline of a cosmic sinkhole, 55 million light years away. It's an image New Zealander Roy Kerrs waited 56 years to see.
Although we were never really in doubt what these objects were, nevertheless there's always this fear that when you actually get a look at them, there's something else.
In 1915, Albert Einstein came up with a series of equations to describe black holes.
He didn't think that anybody was going to solve the equations ever, because they were so complicated.
50 years later, Roy Kerrs struck success.
Pen on paper, sitting at a desk, smoking a cigarette every few seconds, and actually, by the time I had finished finding this solution, I think I was smoking 55 cigarettes a day.
His solution, dubbed the Kerr vacuum, helped the understanding of how black holes rotate.
All this black hole science is based on his theory. That's amazing.
Now his work's been proven true.
This is like Mount Everest for New Zealand science.
The black hole picture shared today was captured using a global network of radio telescopes. No single telescope is powerful enough to get a clear view, but by combining the information from each of them, the image becomes sharper. Much is yet to be understood.
We don't actually know what's inside this rotating solution of mine.
But nevertheless, seeing this halo of dust and gas makes black holes much less of a mystery.
We're seeing a picture of it. And boy, that means a lot more to a human being than just a few wiggles on a graph.
The Lord of the Rings series brought huge economic benefits to New Zealand, with tourists flocking there to see where the movies were made. Now Northern Ireland is experiencing a similar tourism boost as avid fans of the hit series Game of Thrones rush to visit the show's film locations. The country is also seeing other benefits.
The real-life Westeros. This part of the UK has been home to perhaps the biggest TV series in the world for the last decade.
What we want to know is where Melisandre gave birth, and that's in here.
Well, you can really see how the caves, the cliffs, the crashing waves on this stretch of coastline in County Antrim appealed to the Game of Thrones location scouts. And now thousands of tourists are coming here to see for themselves the places where so many of the major scenes in the series were filmed.
It's wonderful that you're being taken to places like this where you would never usually go before.
The village of Cushendun gets coachloads of visitors every day, from China to California.
I love the Game of Thrones. It's a fantastic show. Northern Ireland is gorgeous.
One of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and I can't wait to come back.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously Game of Thrones is a huge plus.
All sorts of local people have benefited from the Thrones effect. A show this epic requires plenty of swords, daggers and arrows. One man who's had a big part in bringing those scenes to the screen practices his art in the County Down countryside. This blacksmith made weapons used to fight for the Iron Throne.
I was a fan of the books before I knew the show was ever going to get made, and then when you hear the show's getting made, I thought it was fantastic, and then find out it was being made here was even better.
The show's generated new jobs, career opportunities and an international profile for the TV and film industry. This production company has more than tripled its staff since Game of Thrones arrived.
It has persuaded parents and colleges that the creative industries now is a very acceptable place to work. It's a very acceptable ambition to want to work in creative industries.
The fantasy show has had a fantastic impact on Northern Ireland. But the question now is, who'll be left standing at the end of the final season?
Rugby stars and the gay community have slammed the latest homophobic outburst from Wallabies player Israel Folau. The fullback's future is again in doubt, this time in a World Cup year, with many now calling for him to be banned altogether from the sport.
Controversial rugby player Israel Folau speaking out at church.
When God commands something, it's a must. You must do that. Repentance is a must.
Now the Wallabies star is being asked to repent himself after suggesting homosexuals are sinners and will go to hell unless they turn to Jesus Christ.
So those sort of comments are really hurtful and they're really damaging. Young people who are trying to find their way in life, for some of them they never come out of it. It can lead to suicide.
It's a year since Folau made similar comments, prompting a warning from Rugby Australia. It's now branded the latest outburst unacceptable, calling in the Integrity Unit. New Zealand politicians urging action.
Well, I think there need to be consequences because he's done it before and he's continued to use his platform, which he has because of his position in rugby, to make these comments again, and they are harmful.
The state of Tasmania has just passed a law making it optional to put gender on birth certificates. Responding to that, Folau said the devil has blinded people.
Those comments are his personal opinion and they're definitely not, the majorities, are they? So, we'll see what happens with it, but obviously we don't share those same opinions.
Former Lions captain Gareth Thomas, himself the victim of a violent homophobic attack last year, is urging people to ignore the comments. Outspoken, now silent Israel Folau has gone to ground.
People talk about freedom of speech. Yeah, there's freedom of speech, but there's no freedom from consequences. He cannot have thought that he could post that and it would be business as usual.
The Wallabies' major sponsor Qantas is paying close attention, saying it's waiting to see the outcome of the review.
True Guy Sports is next. Don't go away.
Tukai Sports.
Welcome to Trukai Sports. PNG powerlifter Vagi Henry has been in training for the past 6 months in preparation for the Pacific Games. Vagi, along with other lifters, was selected into the PNG powerlifting team for the Pacific Games after attending the Oceania Championships in Gold Coast last year.
In the previous Pacific Games, PNG was able to win 8 gold, 3 silver and 4 bronze, a total of 15 medals topping the standings in powerlifting. PNG powerlifter Vagi Henry has been hard at training at the high-performance gym with an aim to better his performance in the 120 plus kg.
We've been consistent with our training since last year till now, so we're hoping to further improve on the last totals we made and look forward to the Pacific Games.
In January this year, Vagi and other powerlifters from PNG were invited to Nauru to celebrate their 50th independence, and with powerlifting being Nauru's biggest sport, a tournament was held, with other lifters from around the world attending. Henry was impressed with his own performance, finishing 4th behind top lifters in the world.
People from as far as America, Canada and Belgium were all down there. Back in competition, I was glad that I finally took a lift from Jeza Wepa, which is the deadlift. And yeah, Jeza's a champion, so I'm training up. He's my role model, even though we're good friends, same division, good friends. Every time we meet each other, we support each other. So it was good to get a lift. Out of the 3 lifts, I got one, so I was happy with that. So I am consistently improving on the other 2 lifts, which is the squat and bench press.
Vagi and a few lifters make use of the high-performance gym to train every week, with majority of the team training in their villages.
Due to some financial problems, people who can't make it to this gym, we are lucky that Michael had given us a set, so they're training there. But I keep encouraging the teams that are training there to come and utilize the HPTC program and their weights and the great equipment they have here, because it's going to definitely help them in all those small equipment.
Though powerlifting has been around for a while, it has to some extent become stagnant. Female lifter Linda Paulson has been part of the PNG Olympic Committee's Heroes program, promoting the sport in schools. Though they have generated interest from many young men and women to join the sport, funding to run different clinics and competitions has always been the sport's biggest issue.
Powerlifting, as you may or may not know, powerlifting is one of the sports that contributed to any individual sport. So there was 15 athletes, 15 medals for powerlifting. So we do bring home the gold and medals for PNG. It's just we need sponsorship and I guess things like our supplements and everything to keep us in track of based on our body nutrients and fat intakes, I guess.
Elijah Levet, National EMTV Sports.
The Southern and Northern Kumul Petroleum National Soccer League competition enters round 11 this weekend. Matches will be played at the PNG Football Stadium, beginning with the first match at 11 a.m. between Star Mountain and Gulf Komara. At 1 p.m, Central United will take on ladder leaders Karu United, followed by the main game between Southern Strikers and Eastern Stars at 3 p.m. The last game will be played at 5 p.m. between Port Moresby United and FC Bougainville. All these matches will be played on Saturday. With a successful weekend of round 1 of the National Rugby League competition, this weekend is set to be another busy one. This will see 2 home matches played at the National Football Stadium and 4 away matches to be played in Kimbe, Mendi, Kokopo and Minj. Current standings after round 1 on the ladders board sees the Gulf Iso followed by Egmak Rabal Gurias and Fortuna Fresh Central Dabaris in 3rd place.
Round 2 of the National Rugby League competition is set to be a busy one, with 2 matches to be played in Port Moresby and 4 others to be played respectively in Mendi, Kokopo, Kimbe and Minj. In Port Moresby, the Fortuna Fresh Central Dabaris, who won their first away match in Kimbe, will play their first home game at the National Football Stadium against the Mount Hagen Eagles at 1 p.m. Similarly, Gulf Iso, who won their first match for the season, will take on the Goroka Lahanis at NFS at 3 p.m. this Sunday. 4 matches played outside of Port Moresby will see Mendi Muruks take on Enga Miox in Mendi, Agmak Rabal Gurias will play Croton Hela Wigmen in Kokopo, and Kimbe Cutters will host the Lace-Next Tigers in their second home game, while Wagi Tumbe will play host to NCDC Port Moresby Vipers. Current standings of the NRL Round 1 ladder stands at PRK Gulf Iso at first place, Agmak Rabal Gurias at second place, Fortuna Fresh Central Dabaris at third place, and Lace-Next Tigers sitting at fourth place. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Team manager of Fortuna Fresh Central Dabaris Gomara Ahuta was at Trophy House today to acknowledge their support on behalf of the players and the Dabaris board. Trophy House Operations Manager Paul Pasive says Central Dabaris team is the first in the National Rugby League competition to be sponsored by Trophy House.
The Central Dabaris, who are now gearing up for their first home game against the Mount Hagen Eagles, have secured sponsorship with Trophy House. Today, team manager of Central Dabaris, Gomara Ahuta, was present at Trophy House to acknowledge the support.
Dabaris executives and board of directors and the coaching staffs, the technical staffs, I want to take this privilege to say thank you to you for the sponsorship, and we are looking forward to have a partnership for the next 5 years. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Trophy House has supported the Dabaris with sportswear, shoes and other merchandise, with Fortuna Fresh Central Dabaris to be the first team in the National Rugby League competition to gain support from Trophy House. Team manager Ahuta is hoping the sponsorship can extend for the next 5 years or more.
Selling Dabaris merchandise, but that one we're gonna have to finalize design and everything, and we have obviously we need to speak with the executive committee and to make sure that everything is in place. Wish you the best of luck for the rest of the season.
Trophy House has supported Central Dabaris with 10,000 kina worth of merchandise that players can use for their training and competitions. Also, a 10% discount by Trophy House will be offered to members of the Dabaris Club. Godwin Eki, National EMTV Sports.
Chukai Sports continues with more after the break. Don't go away.
Chukai Sports.
Welcome back to Chukai Sports. Sonny Bill Williams' latest knee injury has ruled him out of this Monday's first All Blacks World Cup camp. Williams needs surgery on his troublesome right knee, keeping him out of Super Rugby for the next 6 weeks. It does mean extra responsibilities for one player in particular at the Blues.
Nonu's voice has all of a sudden become a lot more important for the Blues. With Vice-Captain Sonny Bill Williams gone, Nonu is now the team's key man in the back line.
But Ma stepped up as well, so we're still lucky to have Ma, and he's striving with the extra minutes in game time.
Williams picked up his latest injury in this offload 2 weeks ago. It means he misses the All Blacks' first World Cup Foundation camp on Monday.
Have you received any indication that someone else might be called in?
No, we haven't, sorry.
The All Blacks say they won't call up a replacement.
He's got some good advice, and I'm pretty sure that whatever they decide, he'll have long-term in mind as well.
For Sonny Bill, it's knee deja vu. Last June, the 33-year-old had the same knee operated on and missed 2 of the All Blacks' June tests, but came back quicker than expected. He'll remain at the Blues base through recovery, along with Nonu, a leading hand.
Yeah, they are, big drivers of attitude across the board and everything we do. Like with their experience.
We'll miss him on the field, obviously, but he's still contributing in the meeting rooms and where he can.
Knee, wrist and shoulder issues limited Sonny Bill's game time in 2018. His super appearances across the last 2.5 seasons, less than 20 matches. It's understandable time is catching up after 300 top-grade league and union games.
He's a pretty determined guy. This year he really wants to make the World Cup squad and be a part of that, obviously, so he's pretty driven to make sure he recovers well from this injury and gets back on the field.
Given his past ability to bounce back, the World Cup should still be within Sonny Bill's sights.
The Kiwi who's turned the UFC on its head is shock horror confident ahead of his mixed martial arts title fight in America this weekend. In fact, Israel Adesanya is already planning how he'd be a better champion than the current title holder.
A polite greeting for the man he'll be trying to beat into submission on Sunday. Despite being the lower-ranked fighter, Kiwi Israel Adesanya goes in as the favourite.
I don't react to that tag at all. I don't listen to it. All that matters is what I think of myself. But I'm the favourite.
It's no secret that Adesanya's had an impressive rise. Sunday's fight against American Kelvin Gastelum for the interim middleweight title caps off a busy 14 months in the UFC.
In 1 year, I fought 5 times. So as a champion, I'll be very active and I'll actually show up to work.
That's a dig at current middleweight champion Robert Whittaker. The Kiwi-born Australian withdrew from a title fight against Gastelum in February due to illness. Since winning the belt in 2017, Whittaker has defended it just once. If Adesanya wins this weekend, Whittaker will be his next opponent.
That will be the biggest, if not one of the biggest, sporting events in Pacifica region. So, I look forward to that. I look forward to making history twice.
No Kiwi has won a UFC title, but the added pressure hasn't changed Adesanya and his team's preparation.
Leading up to the fight, I watched lots of Netflix and sleep the 12 hours leading up to the fight.
The 29-year-old already wins the height and reach battle, but Gastelum is a fierce wrestler with a knockout punch. So what's Adesanya most looking forward to about the fight?
I'm looking forward to going home to my dogs and cat.
He'll hopefully have a new belt to take home to show them.
And that ends True Guys Sports. The weather details coming up next.
True Guys Sports. True Kai Sports.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
A look at the weather forecasts for tonight and tomorrow in the southern region. Showers in Kerama. In the Master region, mostly fine in Wau and Lake. In the New Guinea Islands region, a shower or two in all centres. And in the Highlands region, fine weather right across the region.
The weather details were proudly brought to you by Dulux, celebrating 50 years in PNG and the only paint made in PNG.
And that has been the news, sport and weather for today, Thursday, the 11th of April 2019. On behalf of the entire EMTV News team, pleasant viewing. Good night.